Hi everyone, in this video I will show you how I create a game-ready model of a forklift and pallet truck. I will walk you through our case stages, blocking, high poly, low poly, UV, baking and texturing. At the end I'll also share how much time I spent on this project. The goal was I created optimized 3D model of a forklift and a pallet truck suitable for use in a game. It was essential to strike a balance between high-quality visual and optimized geometry and textures. I started by searching references. Fortunately, I couldn't find any technical blueprints of the model or light on the image and dimensions I collected. I also watched a lot of photos and videos to understand how the mechanism works and to guide my geometry creation. On the screen you can see some dimensions, what I find in the internet. I began by creating a cube to match the overall dimensions of the model, then I added some other cubes to outline key components such as mast, cabin and fork. Using the references, I moved on to a more detailed blocking phase. For the chain mechanism used in lifting the fork, I created single chain links and used curve array modifiers to shape the chain. I also added armature at connection point to run the block through which the chain moves. Using hooks, I link the chain so I would warp around the block and move as the mechanism operates. At the next, I moved on to creating the high poly model. I used the subdivision surface in Blender for more detail, and for some detail with specific elements like welding seams, damage, boolean operation, and for smooth edges, I used the Zbrush. To improve performance after Dynamesh, I applied decimation to reduce polygon count in Zbrush. After that, I worked on the low poly model, focusing on many precision shading, shapes, and overall optimization. Many high poly detail I baked into texture. For the forklift grade, I used a single plane and plane to create the actual grade later in texturing. I marked sharp edges and insert optimization throughout. In some areas, I added extra polygons to make the weld seams look better. Total polygons 25,128 triangles. Then I moved on to UV unwrapping. For this model I used two 2K texture set, while a single 4K set was an opinion it would have consumed more memory, and the optimization was a priority. I unwrapped the model, added overlaps, and packed the shells. While I could pack them more tightly, this model contains many small details. Reducing the padding could have led baking artifacts or ices during textures. The texture density of the largest parts came about 8. As the next, I baked the normal, curvature, and ambient occlusion maps in Mermoset. In some areas, I adjusted screw settings to ensure proper baking. First, I created alphas for a mask using reference photos in Photoshop. I added the photo and two layers, one entirely white and other black. Using select color range, and I select the parts I wanted to turn into a mask. Then I switched to a white layer, applied the mask, and used the black layer underneath. This gave me a clean alpha. After gathering several alphas, I switched to Substance Painter. I set the texture resolution to 2K and used DirectX settings. I started by creating simple base textures for metal and paint. This method helps me build a logical structure for the textures before refining them. Next, I added a primer layer and create the mask layer. I use the anchor point function to link it. I refined the mask, adjusted the primer layer, and added a detail like fading, peeling, color variation, and roughness differences. I also created custom stickers and applied them to the texture. Then I worked on the plastic material for the cabin. Since there were multiple plastic parts, I added color variation to make them stand out visually. I created a rubber material, and then I moved on the fur. The process here was similar on the orange cabin, but the paint was black. I refined the mask, primer, and color. I added variations, scratches, and transitions between material on the metal. I also used fractal noise in overlay mode. to give the metal highlights a subtle colorful tint, that's adding more realism to the metal material. For the tape, I added variation in the height and made the edges look worn, giving a natural, used appearance. Then I textured the tower. Its structure was similar to the fork material, but I adjusted the colors and variations. For the battery indicator, I created rectangle selection for the information display. I used a darken layer with a dirt mask around the edges to create depth. For the grid, I had previously baked a materiality map, created a transparency layer, and used color correction to mask out the unwanted spots, leaving only the gray, and added the metal material to complete it. After finalizing the remaining details, and the forklift textures were ready. For the pallet truck, I don't wanna go into every stage in detail. I follow the same blocking, high poly, low poly, UV and baking methods as for the forklift. I removed the orange paint and metal textures from the forklift, slightly tweaking them for variation. While creating alphas, as I described earlier, I created two versions, one for rust and another for metal, allowing for smoother transition between material. Next I work on the mechanism material, adding small details, oil dips. I textured handle, added bangle warped around it, and applied stickers I had prepared earlier. I refined the dirt and dust, textured the wheel and added another stickers. And make some details, and then the textures for Pallet Truck were finished.